Okay, I'm seeing that a lot of people are tuning in. So, welcome, everyone. I'm so happy that you're here, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and hear us talk. I am Lauren Bollopew. I am a technical enablement manager here at Ironclad. I will be your moderator today, and a little bit about me. I have been with Ironclad a little over 6 months. I have been in the Salesforce ecosystem, as you can see from the background, over 13 years. I have a lot of old school swag. I have been in the CLM space for about 8 years. Originally from Ireland, moved over here to America, living in Wisconsin. I'm a two-time Salesforce MVP and a user group leader. And I have 5 wonderful kids, an amazing husband, 2 cats, 2 dogs, and I'm a huge hockey fan, so go wild. How about we introduce our other panelists, Nick and Crystal. Nick, why don't you go first and tell everyone about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Lauren. My name is Nick Thompson. I'm the Senior Deal Desk Manager here at Ironclad. I've been at Ironclad for just over 2 years. I started on September 15th, so been a very good 2 years. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I'm traveling out to the Bay Area right now.
Oh. How about you, Crystal?
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Crystal Wu. I run legal ops here at Ironclad, and I just celebrated my 5-year anniversary. Prior to Ironclad, I worked at 2 smart mobility startup, both owned by Ford Motor Company. And prior to going in-house, I was a patent and business litigation paralegal.
Wow. That is a massive career. Oh, sorry, I'm shocked. But before we get going and I ask Crystal and Nick a lot of questions, I do have to go over a few housekeeping items for our attendees. Feel free to use the Q&A tab to submit questions. We will do our best to get to them at the end. This webinar is recorded and you will get a copy of this by tomorrow maybe. And feel free to use the chat as well and let us know your thoughts as we're going along. I love to have a little bit of an interactive session with everyone. Today we are going to hear from both sides of the house, legal operations with Crystal and deal desk from Nick, and get their perspective on how they built a contracting process with Ironclad that allows our sales team to get deals done faster while allowing sales and legal operations teams to focus on what they need to do most. We will talk through the challenges they faced, how they rolled out the new process, and the impact of that process has been since rollout. I'm really excited then to give you guys a live demo on our Salesforce integration. I gave 1 million of them last week at Dreamforce, so if anyone was there, let me know if you stopped by the booth. But I will be going through a live demo integration, which has been essential for us adopting and helping bring legal and our sales teams together for our customers. Right, with that was a T's and C's of all of this. Let's get into the early state of affairs. I'm new to Ironclad. Crystal and Nick, Crystal, you're OG at this point. Can you tell me a little bit about what happened in the beginning? How did we start off what did it look like, the contracting process before? Take me back to the early days. What was the sell side contract look like? What did the sell side contract look like? And what were some of those bottlenecks? Crystal, over to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. So what's really unique and I think super cool about our Ironclad implementation is that we have no pre-Ironclad or pre-CLM contracting process. We've been using our own product since we opened for business. And a fun fact, the instance that we're using today is actually the same instance that both of our co-founders and our first 50 employees signed their onboarding documents. So for sales side contracting, we've gone through quite a few transformation over the years. Both, as you can imagine, our product and our company have evolved quite a bit since we were a YC startup to where we are at today. And our sales contracting process just had to adapt and scale with that, right? Years ago, we started with just a workflow launch link from Salesforce. This is our V1 integration. And then we move on to maintaining pricing and product table and workflow designer. We were negotiating the order forms and services agreement all at the same time, the different workflows. This is pre-multi-doc capability.
Wow.
And then all of that lacked a lot of automation. Fast forward a little bit, then we implemented CPQ. It took a village, and I would say a few quarters for us to get all of our revenue contract aligned on the same process, which we'll talk a lot today. But I would say the biggest challenge that we've identified is it's really resource intensive to get contracts out the door, sales contracts out the door, whether it's for our biggest enterprise customers or our emerging company, less than 50 employee customers. And it's not just for commercial legal and legal team, right? It's across teams supporting deals, privacy, security, services engagement management, deal desk, Nick here, revenue accounting, you get the idea. So we really need to improve the process to be more scalable and repeatable. And at the same time, not to increase risk for our company. From legal's perspective, we didn't want to throw headcount at the problem. Like we didn't want to hire more commercial lawyers or just use outside counsel. So we ended up using Ironclad and the Salesforce integration to solve that. Nick?
Yeah, thanks, Crystal. So like I said, I joined Ironclad 2 years ago. I was Ironclad's first, I would say, dedicated full-time deal desk hire. So deal desk was predominantly like a function and a responsibility that was being shared by sales ops and by finance and by legal prior to me joining the organization. And my background is that I have worked in 2 prior deal desk roles in different capacities at prior companies. One of them was as the chief of staff for the chief legal officer. And that included implementing both Salesforce CPQ and Ironclad. And so coming into my role, I think when I started to examine the processes, I think I could say this confidently, Deal Desk was the biggest bottleneck on every single deal that we were doing. And that was because Deal Desk was a mandatory approver on every order form that was going out the door. So process-wise, we would work through all of our Ironclad approvals, and then Deal Desk was the last approver on every workflow. So even if it was taking me 5-10 minutes to review a contract, you take that and you multiply it out by hundreds and thousands of contracts that we were working on. And obviously that's quite a large bottleneck that I think I myself and Deal Desk were creating. So a lot of our effort early on was on streamlining the process, on using the Salesforce integration to create kind of better process scalability and data integrity. And a lot of that is honestly the testament to the work that the team had done prior to when I joined the company and where the product was at that time. And so most of my 2 years here have been focused on taking us from a place where Deal Desk is approving every single contract to Deal Desk is now only engaged selectively on deals that include custom special terms or custom pricing or truly strategic in nature. And that's a really exciting place to be.
Cool. What was the relationship like back then between legal and Deal Desk and other teams? Because, when you're processing orders or contracts and everyone gets involved, but what did that relationship look like? Was there any challenges there? No communication, that kind of thing, especially as Ironclad was growing and we're bringing more people in. What did that look like for us?
Yeah, I think the challenge when I joined was, like I said, Deal Desk was a net new function to the organization. So when I joined, the relationship between sales and legal was great, as Crystal can attest to. Stepping into my role, I felt like I needed to figure out where does Deal Desk, where does sales ops provide differentiated value in our contracting process. So what is Deal Desk accountable for? How can we be added into the contract negotiation equation and ultimately speed up the process, unlock greater deal velocity for all teams, obviously for go-to-market, but also for legal, for finance, for other folks who are involved in our contract review and negotiations without coming in and creating confusion or stepping on other teams' toes. So a lot of it was just around creating very clear swim lanes for when we're in a deal negotiation process. Like, what is each team accountable for? How can I help to build and improve and streamline our systems to make the user experience better for each stakeholder? And I think we started to progress very quickly on that.
Cool. How about you, Crystal?
Yeah, echoing everything Nick said. And a couple of years ago, we had a webinar. I think it's called Sales Ops Legal BFF. I think is so very much true today. Thanks to Nick. And then just to kind of add to that, from legal team's perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to support our sales team and go-to-market team and ensuring that they're getting the best and fastest services from legal. But it wasn't sustainable. We have 2 commercial lawyers, 1 data privacy lawyer, and then a team of 1 legal ops. We were working overtime to maintain the same SLA that we promised in the past on sales contracts. And we also have other internal clients with growing requests from different departments. But I would say, despite all of these kind of challenges, Ironclad is a very special place. Across the different teams, we have a very collaborative and open company culture. I think the teams generally are very vulnerable about speaking up what's not working and not territorial about solutioning. Like, we have to do things a certain way. And when there is an obvious business process issue, like, hey, there seems to be bottlenecks in our sales contracting process, there's always one person or multiple people on different teams willing to jump in and work together to solve it. So it's really great. And I think because of this culture, about 2 years ago, when Nick joined, we had an all-stars align moment, right? Legal team was thinking about how to support hypergrowth. And at the same time, we reached a really big milestone in our CPQ implementation. We had stable pricing, product SKUs. Our sales leadership and enablement team at the time were maturing and really excited to help with change management. And then I already mentioned we hire a new deal desk person, fantastic. So that's the time where we were like, oh, we could really imagine our sales contracting process. And here we are today.
Cool. Well, I echo that culture. Like, it's amazing how open everyone is here at Ironclad and willing to help and find solutions to problems. Let's talk about that solution for a second, though. What policies did you start thinking about, and what technologies did you leverage? Like, what did that solution start looking like for you?
Yeah, I think the largest part where I felt like I didn't have clarity kind of stepping into my role was around policies. Okay. So I felt like the first step was to truly define what are our policies when it comes to especially the commercial aspects of our deal negotiations. Commonly requested things like payment terms, price locks on renewals. I felt like the operators had a really good sense of, they just knew, okay, if I get this request, I have to go to this place. But as a new employee, I was struggling to understand, cross-functionally, who do I need to engage to get approvals on certain commercial aspects of deal negotiations. So the first step for me was to just define our policies. And I viewed that through 2 lenses. The first would be pricing and discounting approvals. And then the second is, like I said, more of the commercial policies, the commercial terms. So we defined kind of all of our approvals on those 2 fronts. And then we created, I think, a really seamless end-to-end system where all of our pricing and discounting approvals would take place in Salesforce CPQ. And that allowed us to build a really critical guardrail in Ironclad that restricted order form workflows from being created until CPQ approvals were confirmed and received in the Salesforce side of the house. So essentially, we solved the problem of order forms getting out the door without having proper pricing approvals. And that allowed us to also standardize our template in a big, very impactful way. From there, when we talked about our policies on the commercial side, we really just examined like, what are we comfortable with our go-to-market team and our go-to-market organization negotiating themselves versus where does Deal Desk need to be involved? Where does legal and customer success and revenue accounting, where these cross-functional teams need to really be engaged, at the possibility of drafting language, at the possibility of pushing back on certain commercial terms. And that exercise allowed us to create a really self-service experience for our go-to-market organization. So as previously our AEs were constantly reaching out to me and requesting the same 5 pieces of language that we would add, and it wouldn't require approvals. Things like quarterly true ups, things like publicity and marketing rights. By building a self-service module in Salesforce that was then getting pushed into Ironclad automatically, our sellers were moving at like a much, much quicker pace. And all of a sudden, I was able to just focus on the policies that we truly cared about, the policies that we needed to enforce, and make sure that our deals had proper guardrails.
Cool.
And
Crystal,
on legal side,
sorry.
yes. No, thank you, Laura. So on legal side of things, we moved our services agreement. That's the template agreement that all of our customers sign when buying Ironclad product and services to Online Center. That's an Ironclad product, which enable us to start attaching a URL of our services term to our order forms. And we're also able to maintain version control of our agreement on Legal Center. With that, concurrently, we roll out a no negotiation threshold policy. So what that means is legal team will not accept red lines to our services agreement if the customer spend is below a certain ARR amount.
Okay.
And we slowly increase that threshold over time, right? Because we need to scale, we need to make sure that we have enough resources for all the deals that are happening. And we use Ironclad data to move that threshold forward. We have data on how the policy performed in previous quarters. Is the negotiation rate trending up or down? Is the threshold amount too high or too low, right? We had to ensure that this policy is actually enabling the business to move faster and not slow down deals. One key piece is, of course, our team ensure that our terms are fair and market. They address risks from both sides, both parties, Ironclad and customer. And every quarter, our team, the legal team, commercial lawyers assess our template to see which areas are introducing friction, and we update our template accordingly. So that's really how we get to a low touch kind of sales contracting state. I will say, I'll share a fun story, and I'm not making this next part up. We received unsolicited written compliments on our service agreement and DPA.
Wow.
Both customers, prospects were saying, "Oh, this is very concise, well written, and balanced. The risks are balanced." The joy on our team's face, like it was a highlight for sure. So yeah.
I'd say so. Did you print it out and frame it somewhere? Because, like, to me, any compliment is brilliant.
Yeah, we used it in our sales enablement. So it was a move. One last thing I will add is we work with Nick to, he already kind of talked about it, standardize our special terms. So for example, governing laws, fallback, publicity rights, they can be written directly onto our order form. And for non-standard terms, we leverage the Ironclad Salesforce integration, which makes it super easy to be escalated to legal and get approved. It's just a really great process. I think sets everyone up to do their jobs well in the right tool.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I have faced back in a past life as a Salesforce admin was like a lot of friction when it comes to change and stuff like that. Like a lot of people don't love change. Me, myself, I do not love change. But how did you approach the change management as the contracting process was streamlined?
Yes, that's always a difficult question. I think The critical part of the implementation from my perspective was really prioritizing each user type's experience. So since sales teams spend most of their time in Salesforce, we wanted to specifically design their experience to largely be completed within Salesforce, from the use of the embedded workflow launch to any CPQ updates that we were doing, or being able to use the Ironclad workflow object to track approvals and communications for our sales personas. All of their activity related to their deals largely occurs in Salesforce, and so the contract negotiation largely does as well. For legal, for deal desk, and for other users who are using different personas, we operate in Ironclad, and so we really tried to create a tailored experience for those teams using the Salesforce integration and using Salesforce data as well, pulling it into Ironclad, so that Ironclad is our system of record and our system of operation. On the change management side, like I said, probably the most difficult part. With every change that we were making, we felt like we needed to inform and coach, especially our go-to-market organization, on all of the updates. I think we were able to accomplish that by really like three critical tenets that we were thinking about. The first is just leading with the why. So we always started with every explanation of a change by detailing why it was needed to our go-to-market organization, and ultimately why it benefited them. These changes were things that would allow them to operate faster, to operate more efficiently or autonomously without needing to engage cross-functional teams. And for them, that means ultimately closing their deals faster. The second part was to me, over communicating. So we were present at all of our live go-to-market enablement sessions. We were constantly sending updates through communication channels, and really trying to start at the sales leadership level around the updates, so that they could then cascade that information down to each of the sellers in our organization. And then probably the most critical from my perspective was seeking feedback. So for every update that we made in CPQ or in Ironclad, we were constantly reaching out to members of the sales organization for their feedback. It obviously allows them to be part of the improvement. They're a primary stakeholder. They're some of our most frequent users, especially of our order form workflow in Ironclad. But it also allowed us to understand where our enablement gaps were. Like if our team was, if they were giving us feedback for problems that we had already solved or changes that we'd already made, then it really showed us that like our gap was more so in the enablement, how we're explaining the usage of Ironclad, the usage of Salesforce to them, and not so much in the solution itself. So I think those three things especially were really essential to the change management. Obviously, it's never easy, but I do think that ultimately they helped.
How about you, Crystal? How was your experience with change management?
I would say hire a Nick Thompson. No.
I love
Plus
it.
one to everything Nick said. I'll give a less kind of tactical answer. So our Salesforce Ironclad integration is used by 50% of our company. And Lauren, you're right. Change management is the hardest part of the job. I would say my approach, or generally the legal team's approach, is make it a team sport. All players need to be on the same page, on board, and really believe in what we're doing. For folks rolling out and enabling the change, that group needs to be crystal clear on what problems they're trying to solve and solutions they're rolling out. And for the folks receiving the change, our go-to-market team and deal support teams, right? I say approach them with lots of conviction and empathy. Empathy is one of Ironclad's values, right? We believe what these change will do, right? Well, they will make the process better. They will help close deals faster. They will make all the sales folks' teams' professional lives easier and jobs more fulfilling. So just kind of get everybody into that mindset, like, oh, the change is good. And then finally, I will plug our amazing commercial team, Laura and Ari. We sometimes call them Lori by mistake. They always show up with the partnership mentality. They're invested in the outcome of the deals. they're excited for the account executive's success in the deals. So they're kudos to them. They really make change management easy.
Cool. Well, both of you've mentioned speed and like getting deals closed faster. How was rolling out this new contracting process? How has that impacted the speed at which you're able to execute the agreements like in-house? How was it able to impact the speed?
I'll start. Sure, I'll start from legal's perspective. Yeah, the changes have definitely saved the legal team time and resources, and we also felt like we were protecting our company when we see less contract on non-standard terms. When we started this transformation 2 years ago, 40% of the new business deals were on negotiated services agreements, or ESA. And as of now, I just pulled the data a few weeks ago, it's 25%.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then in terms of like days saved, I think it's the headline for this webinar. From Ironclad, we collected some compelling data that it takes half of the time to complete a workflow with a non-negotiated services agreement versus a negotiated service agreement, and it's something like 23 days from time to completion from the workflow. So yeah, sales, legal, everybody's getting that time back.
Mm-hmm.
On my side, Lauren, like you mentioned, to me, it's largely about speed, and so the new process that we've set up has dramatically improved that. Originally, our go-to-market team was completing about 28 fields to launch an order form workflow. By using the Salesforce integration to its fullest extent and redesigning the workflow a bit, the AEs within Ironclad are now only completing at most 3 fields to launch an order form. From there, like I said, their experience is predominantly within Salesforce. They're making their updates, their changes to pricing, to commercial terms, and all of that is automatically flowing from Salesforce into Ironclad. So our templates are dynamically updating. There's nowhere near as many manual edits as there once were. And the information and the data across Salesforce and Ironclad is staying consistent as a result. So on my side, there's no more needing to check for manual edits to contracts that would have the data in Ironclad be one thing and have the data in Salesforce be another. So ultimately, the process building and the data integration that we worked on has allowed us to remove Deal Desk from being a part of every single order form workflow. I think I was looking back at some historical data, and I saw that the average Deal Desk approval was around 26 minutes. And I remember sitting in meetings, like reviewing contracts and approving them while I was trying to think about what we're talking about in the meeting. And so it's just a much better place as an operator to not be as involved and to be more of a resource in our deal negotiation process rather than the starting point was really as a utility. So now Deal Desk is only a mandatory approver on workflows that are above $100,000 ARR. And we actually are going to be increasing that threshold to $250,000 ARR at the end of this quarter. So we're super excited about that. Lastly, I think maybe the biggest development in terms of deal execution and signing is really the usage of our own product, Ironclad Signature. I remember at every end of month and end of quarter, I was getting emails from our own CFO, from our controllers, and the other folks who sign our order forms. And they were asking, is this good to sign? Am I good to, actually execute this and we're good to book it? And so now, obviously, with the developments in Ironclad Signature, when they get signature requests, they can see that legal has approved it, Deal Desk has approved it, finance and other cross-functional teams have been involved in the process. So it completely removes that bottleneck, that back and forth around. We have total clarity in our contract execution, and it's a really exciting place to be.
I really love that little pop-up. I like to call it the TLDR bar or pop-up that shows you everything. That's one of my favorite features. What about you, Crystal? How tell us your point of view of it.
more on data. I think it isn't just about speed, right? Just sharing another piece, like by rolling out these like enhancements and guidelines, like we're also really ensuring that there's less deviation from our standard terms. And it's kind of just really powerful for the legal team to also show that we're reducing financial, legal, and these performance risks in the contract to the company. Yeah.
Cool. So you both mentioned data, and I am probably the biggest data geek. I run reports just for fun in Salesforce sometimes. Don't judge, please. How do you? I love data. Data, source of truth. How do you both use data to illustrate? How are you both using the data to illustrate or support the legal and deal desk productivity? And what are you reporting on? What can I go play in and track myself?
Yeah, I think to your point, like data is an amazing thing. I always try to stay like laser focused on what are the really critical aspects of the data. We obviously want to take a data-driven approach to everything that we do, but what are like the North Stars that we hope the data shows us, and what are we ultimately building towards? And for me, that's three things that I'm currently tracking. The first is volume of what we call no-touch deals. And a no-touch deal is, I've defined it as deals that do not require deal desk or legal approval. So like I said, originally when I joined the company, deal desk was approving 100% of deals. Now in our reporting, we're seeing that we're only approving 35% of new business deals and 25% of our renewals. So just dramatically streamlining and removing the need for especially deal desk approval around a lot of utility things like I was talking about. The second thing is, like Crystal said, speed is great, but accuracy is critical, especially as a contracting company. So I'm also keeping an eye on these no-touch deals even after they close. Deal desk didn't approve them, legal didn't approve them, but were they ultimately accurate? Things like start and end dates, revenue recognition, is the amounts that are listed in the order form, are they accurate? Could be really any number of things. So ultimately, we're still reviewing them, but we're reviewing them post-signature. And this quarter, we're at a 98% accuracy of our no-touch, no-review order forms. So that's a great place to be. And then lastly, I'm really keeping an eye on bookings and accuracies. So within Ironclad, deal desk reports to our finance organization. So ultimately, my team is responsible not only for being involved in the contract negotiation process, but also being involved in the close process and the handoff to downstream teams like revenue accounting and finance. And it's great if the contracts are accurate. That's something that's a requirement that we need to have. But ultimately, we're also responsible for making sure that our opportunities in Salesforce get booked correctly, that invoices are issued at the right time for the right amounts, and that handoff is really seamless across our systems. So I am always keeping track of how many amendments or adjustments are we having to make within Ironclad or within Salesforce on closed deals, so that we're just not creating so much heartburn or headaches for those downstream teams.
And from my legal team's perspective, I think the number, similarly, the percentage of legal involvement in business contract is kind of our key metric. This metric help us demonstrate to the business, hey, is legal aligning resources to revenue? Is the legal cost in closing these deals too high? Or do we need more resources, move those resources away to higher revenue contracts? And we also really want to free up our commercial team, right, to work on more strategic projects just outside of redlining and contract review. We combine the sales contracting data with similar metrics, legal team involvement in renewal or our buy-side contract. And then we have a legal intake workflow that we also manage in Ironclad. So all of that, I think I'm very fortunate as a legal ops. I really have all the data in one place to show how the legal team is spending time. And even more interesting, where are the legal requests coming from the business, which can speak to where are our area of legal risk and process gaps. Yeah.
Cool. Wow. Well, I'm going to go play in reports later. I am a data geek, okay? But now it's over to me. Hands up or show an emotion in the chat bar there if you're ready for this demo. Let's hope that my internet stays connected and, you know, we're going to do this demo live. So let me share my screen over here. Thank you, Sophia, Francesca. Loving it. Okay, cool. Everyone can see my screen? Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Okay, so if you're familiar with Salesforce, you're familiar with like downloading from the App Exchange and integrating it in. There are some demos on the demo library on how to integrate in. It's quick and easy if you're used to it. Very much to the nature of this whole talk today is it's doing your homework to set yourself up for success, like your procedures and what contracts and stuff you want to enter in there. So let's imagine I've done all of that research with our amazing Crystal and Nick, and we have put all this into our system here. I'm going to go into a deal right here. It's not a big deal, but it's $15,000, and I am going to kick off the sending out an order form process. Again, I can be a sales rep. You can use this on any object as well. If you're familiar with Salesforce, you can use this on custom objects. You can use this on the box objects. You can send it out on contracts, accounts, etc. Right here, I have the Lightning Web component already set up. You can rename this as well if you're a Salesforce admin. Obviously, you don't want to have create workflow. You could be send order or send an NDA. You can create whatever you want, name it whatever you want. And once we do that, then it's going to bring up this workflow. These workflows are tailor-made, so your user sees exactly what they need and when they need it. So very much to if you have auto approvals or auto sending out, you will show that depending on what kind of contract it is or what kind of order and values. So everything is tailor-made to your business, making it easier for your sales teams and your legal teams to get work done fast. From here, I'm going to send out a normal order and click a launch form. This launch form has been pre-configured. Again, it can be redesigned to whatever you need it to be for your business. And if you have a third-party paper, you can also upload that in there as well. So you don't have to worry about, you know, do I have to do a different process for a third-party paper? It's the same. It's you launched a form. If I was to do that, I could upload the file. I'm not going to upload anything here. I'm going to use our party paper. I'm going to set myself up to be one of the co-signers. And then here I have the ability to which e-signature platform do I want to use. I love the Ironclad signature very much. To Nick's point earlier, I love that little screen that shows me who has signed off and shows me all those key terms that I need to know. So I'm not reading a contract that I'm sorry, Crystal, I wish I went to law school. I just don't understand a lot of legal terms. So having that quick screen helps me a lot. From here, then you can see Salesforce is the link. It's already pulling in your data. So there's no manual entry from your sales reps or any user who's in Salesforce launching a contract. That data is already pulled over, keeping your data clean, and it's making things go a lot faster. I'm going to just show you all of this stuff, and then you're going to see here, core line customer is a signer here. It didn't pull over a signer, so I know there's no signer in the title in Salesforce, but that's okay. I know she's CEO. She's definitely CEO of this house. Coraline is my cat. I'm going to go down to timelines and payments. Again, everything is pulled over from Salesforce. I'm not manually entering anything. I can see everything is filled out. Everything looks good based on what I set up in this quote already. Subscription totals and everything else, everything looks great. I have no special terms, so I don't need to pull Nick in at all. So I can launch this contract by just clicking submit. Okay. Now this is generating right now, this is generating that contract based on that information that was pulled in from Salesforce and adding in that information that I've put in, like the title of the CEO. This is a really cool screen. This is your Ironclad workflow, and it gives you a visual representation. So if you're like me and I go at warp speed, I don't want to read a status. I just want to say, oh, it's at review. Okay. So you're not trying to find where your status is. It's great visual representation. Here we have Ironclad messages, and this is kind of cool because when you're messaging out, this is messaging using Ironclad. So anything that you type in here in the chat, that will go for internal collaborators. That's going to be logged on your Ironclad message, on your Ironclad autolog. Same with email. Your email will be also logged in there. So again, whatever you're doing in Salesforce or your sales team are doing in Salesforce, your legal team are also going to be able to see that real time. And I'll show you that in one quick sec. Over here, you have your details. So this is pulling all your information from where it is from: workflow name, the related account, the quote, the related opportunity, and the workflow. I'm going to just open this up, and while that's loading, I'm going to bring you over to the next steps. Again, visual representation. So anyone who's going in here, if I win the lottery and I'm off on a Caribbean cruise, my boss can go in here and see who the next step is. So I can see I have to approve it, then it goes off to legal, and then it has to go off to Ian. I'm guessing Ian has been roped in because there's probably some data privacy stuff that we need him to review. Again, you can tailor make on your each template whoever you want to be the approvers. It doesn't necessarily have to be an IT leader. It could be a sales leader and so on. And then here's our documents, and you can see I've got a version 1 here. I'm going to jump into what legal see now in Ironclad. You can see it's almost a carbon copy, obviously different tools, but you can see that all the approvals are here: Lauren, Eva, and Ian. And then you can see here, she's already reviewed the order, and both documents that are compliant with legal standards were clear to proceed. If I wanted to @mention anyone here, so I'm going to just quickly @mention myself. I want to show the speed of how quick it is when you're collaborating with someone here. So I'm going to click send message. I'm going to jump back in here, and it's immediately in Ironclad. So your legal team and your sales team can see at the exact same time what is happening at all times. From here, then I can, if I'm legal, I can approve it in here. If I'm sales, I can click approve. I can see that legal and IT have already approved this for me, which is brilliant. And it's just left for me to approve. Once I've done that, the workflow automatically updates. Again, I'm not doing any touching. It's all automatic for me, and it's gone out for signature. That's how quick and easy it is. We're going to jump over to Coraline and see what Coraline sees now. Apologies, I should have signed in earlier. We'll jump over and see what your customer or even an internal person will see. I'm going to go into Gmail here real quick, and you'll see I have a contract here that I need to sign. So I'm going to click on this and review and sign. I'm going to click sign with Ironclad, and you can see the approvals here, who's already approved it. This is exactly what Nick was talking about earlier. Some key terms, so who the counterparty is, the address, the agreement dates, and so on, and the signatures, who has to sign it. So I'm going to just sign it real quickly. Coraline does not have opposable thumbs. As I said, she is my cat. So I'm just going to sign it, and I'm going to sign it in blue for her. She is CEO, and I finished signing. Now that's going to prompt your next signer, which is actually myself, to sign it. Once I do that, I will, hang on, I can go in and do that real quick. Once I do that, you'll see the update in here. So I'm going to, apologies. Review and sign. Again, just going to do it real quick. Same steps as what everyone else has seen. I will just pull it over here so everyone can see what I'm doing. I'm going to sign with Ironclad. I get the approvals, I get the key terms, and I get the signatures collected. So I'm going to just start signing. I'm going to sign my name. I'm not Coraline, I'm Lauren. How to spell my surname today? I'm going to go Lauren Customer. Why not? And I'm a technical enablement manager. Next, and finish signing. now, because in the interest of time, I'm just going to click a refresh and it will show you that my contract has been completed. So I've been able to launch a contract, have it reviewed, have it approved, have it signed, all in Salesforce. If I was a legal person, you can see everything is here. Everything is tracked in here. All the metadata that I am going to geek out on later on building those reports is all right here. And I can do that in the insights. And then if I need to go in and check something, I can pull this contract in repository. This is a very, very quick overview of what we'd see when you're using Ironclad on Salesforce. I know it was super quick. I'm quite happy to show anyone or point anyone in directions of other videos. We do have a lot on our demo library and on YouTube if you do want to see a more comprehensive demo. But in interest of time, I want to make sure your questions are answered. So I'm going to jump over to some questions and answers. Would customers internally approve sign via? I'm going to jump over to questions right now. Nick and Crystal, are you ready? Awesome.
As ready as I can be. Let's do it.
Okay. Let's see here. First question. I'm going to see if I can scroll down to the bottom. Can I get more information on how you restrict order form creation without Salesforce approvals first? We are currently implementing Ironclad and hitting this issue because we have extensive approval rules built out in Salesforce. Did we face anything like that internally?
Yes, absolutely. So the way that we solve for this is, Lauren, like you showed during your demo, you can map fields from Salesforce into Ironclad, obviously. I saw a question around the quoting solution that we use and how it integrates so well with Salesforce, and that's because we use Salesforce CPQ, which is Salesforce's native quoting solution. So basically, the model that we set up is our sales team submits for all of our pricing approvals in Salesforce CPQ, and we map the approval status field from our CPQ quote into Ironclad. And so the Ironclad workflow will not launch unless the CPQ approval status says approved. If it's blank, if it's pending, it simply will block the entire workflow from being launched. So that's where we really enforce our pricing guardrails prior to all of our pricing and discounting being put in an order form that is executable.
Okay, cool. Crystal, I'm going to hit you up for this one. How do you find that friction? How do you find that friction that you're mitigating? Is the system giving you some kind of specific insight, or is it 18 of 50 agreements have warranties redlined?
Yeah, great question. So after signature in Ironclad, there is a step called archive. And this is the step where we validate, earlier Lauren showed you the metadata panel, those metadata are accurate. Or if we have additional information that legal wants to capture, for example, data breach notice time, sub-processor notice obligation that aren't captured during negotiation, we would extract that data and tag them in the archive step. And after the archive step, the contracts become permanent record. And in the repository, that's where we can pull reports. And exactly in the question, I produce a quarterly report that has how many non-standard how many agreements have non-standard warranty, how many have non-standard limited liability, and then from there, our team can see where the friction points are.
Cool. Throwing this to both of you, I wasn't here, so this is why I see this question, and I really want to know the answer to this. Did your Salesforce have to change their SFDC hygiene at all to get accurate no-touch deals, to get on no-touch deals, and was this a challenge at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the answer is no. And
Okay.
that's part of the beauty of it. Like our sales users did not have to change anything in terms of how they were forecasting the business, how they were building their offers. If anything, on the Ironclad side, we needed to map more fields from Salesforce. So there was a lot of a la carte fields that weren't mapped into Salesforce. So when our sales users were launching workflows, they were putting in, they were being prompted to put in values that they had already put into Salesforce. So
Mm.
similar to the demo you showed, you can map the fields directly from Salesforce and pull that information in. And then we actually now leverage that to pull in all sorts of the fields that our sales team is using from a data hygiene perspective, and to pull those into Ironclad as well. So, for example, things like forecast fields, we can now see what a sales rep is forecasting, for a given deal, or a sales leader is forecasting for a given deal, and build Ironclad dashboards based off of that, so that our legal team prioritizes the right deals appropriately. Our deal desk team does the same. So we were able to leverage all of our existing Salesforce fields.
Mhm.
And the last caveat I'll put on top is we use a Salesforce automated flow
Mhm.
that is from one of our support articles. So as users are making changes to opportunities or to CPQ quotes, like I said, the metadata is automatically getting pushed into Ironclad. That's been by far like the number one most impactful process building thing that we have done. And the biggest endorsement I can give for it is that I implemented the flow for our team, and I am not a Salesforce admin, and I didn't break anything, and it took about 5 minutes. So it's made a world of difference.
Cool. Crystal, I've got a really good one here for you. If the customer wants to control the executable, how do your signatories know the agreement being sent from the vendor is the final agreed upon version?
Yeah, and Nick, please chime in. Deal Desk actually manage a lot of the signature process, but even before signature gets signed, Ironclad version control is amazing. Like you can have everything from your first template through the executable. Right now, and please check me, team. We have a PDF to Word comparison feature now, where you can import the counterparty version with your internal last approved version and see what the difference from there. Great compliance feature.
Yeah, I love that one. Nick, do all renewals that auto renew, do all of the renewals that auto renew or don't get touched by your deal ops team still pass through Ironclad for signature? Do you have legal bypass in place for it to go straight to signature?
So in terms of auto renewals, the process that we've set up is we leverage renewal opportunities and renewal quotes on the Salesforce side of the house. Our sales users do generate Ironclad workflows for those. And that's because we're still, even in situations where we're doing an auto renewal, we're still reaching out to the customer contacts. We're still providing that auto renewal order form to them to confirm, here's your auto renewal, here's what you're going to be charged, having that dialogue. And then we use basically straight to archive functionality on the Ironclad side of the house, so that when the customer has confirmed that the auto renewal is acceptable, our sales users can just select approve within Ironclad. It pushes the auto renewal order form straight to the archive state, and then we're good to close out that auto renewal.
Cool. Okay, I think we have time for just one more question. I'm seeing they're getting the bar to pull me off stage. So over time, a customer has many different agreements and order forms. How is this information set up for users, primarily sales and legal, to understand, for example, an agreement has been amended or superseded?
Crystal, do you want to take that one, or I'm happy to try as well?
I'll speak from an Ironclad admin perspective. We have very specific record types that we kind of control our papering, right? New business is order form. If it's a renewal, it has a renewal and as a record type. Amendments all amendments are labeled as amendment. And I think the record type's kind of that first filtering option that makes the contracts easier to find in the repository and in dashboard. And Nick, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think a lot of the demo that we've shown and the things that we've talked about have all been highlighting workflow sync, which is how you launch a workflow, how you work through the workflow stages. But post signature, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned over especially the last year, we've been really focused on using record sync as opposed to workflow sync. And record sync is a really critical feature for all of the post signature updates that you want to make. So after an agreement has been signed, for example, we leverage record sync to take all of our fully signed order forms. And when they are fully archived, record sync will automatically push them back into the Salesforce account so that our sales users can go to a Salesforce account and they can see here is the chronological order of every agreement, whether it's an order form, an amendment, a statement of work, that this customer has signed. So from a sales experience perspective, they continue to operate within Salesforce. I think it also helps to understand the chronology within a customer account, understanding their life cycle. What is the most recent contract that they have executed, but also, show me everything over time in one place. And you can obviously find that in the repository, but for our sales users, it lays it out in a very straightforward way, showing the full comprehensive look at each customer's contracts.
Awesome. Cool. Well, at that, I'm seeing the hook getting closer. They're playing the walk-off stage music. Thank you so much, Nick and Crystal. I learned a lot about Ironclad history and how we do things and how we did things and how it all progressed. So thank you so much for sharing that knowledge. And for everyone here for spending the last hour with us, who joined us today, who are watching this recording. If they have not joined us, you will receive this recording. I think it'll be probably tomorrow by the time you do. But thank you so much. There is going to be a link in the chat right now. So if you do have any questions or you want Ironclad, our team can help you with that. And yeah, if you have any questions on how Ironclad can help you streamline sales contracting, let us know. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.